Hello everybody, welcome to the Thursday preview for the 2020 Shakir Grand Prix. We're recording this on the Friday because there's so much to get through. We had to wait until everything was officially confirmed. But first of all, let's take a look at the drivers and the Constructors' Championship. It's the 2020 Shakir Grand Prix. We remain at the Bahrain International Circuit though, on the outer loop. Lewis Hamilton has won 11 times this year, but he will not take part in this weekend's Grand Prix due to the COVID-19 pandemic and him catching the virus, which means we could be looking at a fifth different winner in 2020. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, Hamilton, luckily, is already the champion. 332 points, is that how much it's going to be his total this year? Valtteri Bottas has held off second place away from Max Verstappen. However, that gap could close down in this weekend and next in Abu Dhabi. Daniel Ricciardo is in the fight for fourth place, just 2 points clear of Sergio Perez, who himself is 2 clear of Charles Leclerc after an impressive race last time out. Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz battling for supremacy at McLaren after a double points finish last time, followed by Alexander Albon now in 9th and Pierre Gasly now in 10th. The fight for 4 increasing to 6 drivers. Lance Stroll remains in 11th place on 59 points. Esteban Ocon is on 42. Vettel 13th on 33 points. Danica Kvyat, Nico Hülkenberg, Kimi Räikkönen, Antonio Giovinazzi, Romain Grosjean not racing this weekend for obvious reasons, Kevin Magnussen, Nicholas Latifi, and George Russell, now driving for Mercedes, stands his first ever chance of scoring a World Championship point. In the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes have already wrapped that up. 533 points to Red Bull's 274. It's really the battle for third. McLaren, with a fantastic result last weekend, has propelled them into third place, way ahead of Racing Point, and Renault are playing catch-up. Ferrari now out of the game for third. AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, 7th and 8th. Haas, and there's still no points on the board for Williams, although Russell might get some from Mercedes. It's the 2020 Shakir Grand Prix, and this is your weekend preview. It's a different circuit this weekend. We use the outer loop, which means we haven't raced on this configuration properly since 2010. Let's take a look on board now. Let's take a look around the Bahrain International Circuit outer loop, the first time we've ever used this configuration. Starting on the F1 2020 game on the new normal track, hurtle down the usual start-finish straight towards turn 1. A heavy braking zone after a long DRS detection point. From its gear, late braking down into second gear, about 70 miles an hour. Accelerate and compromise the exit at turn 2 to get a good run out of turn 3. Pay respects to Romain Grosjean in his horrific accident. How he managed to get out of that, we don't know. Now, let's switch back to the 2010 game on the old circuit that we used to use. Uphill, past now the tricky outer loop section into the chicane. It's bumpy, it's been resurfaced in parts, but the braking zone for the chicane is almost invisible. Hurtle out now, full speed. Ignore the barrier, flash back to 2020, and you're down the back straightaway, out of what is now turn 9, and down towards turn 10, 11. The last 2 corners on the track, another DRS zone, hard on the brakes, full power once again. It is an incredibly short lap, around 55 seconds, but still, it's going to be a very chaotic Grand Prix. Well, a crazy, crazy week coming into this Grand Prix. Alongside me to talk about it is Ian Birch. Dad, where do we start? Let's start with Sunday. Let's start with Romain Grosjean's accident and that start of the race. Because it kicked off a chain reaction that we've never seen before in Formula One. First of all, he survived just with the halo.
Halo did its job, the titanium halo. A lot of people are reporting that it could have been his fault. If you look at the slow motion, you can clearly see that he goes over a bit of strip
off the front wing of McLaren,
the McLaren, and which I think was Lando, was it? Or Sainz?
Yeah, I think it was Lando and Sainz. They both had a problem. Yeah,
there was a little clip, and a bit of strip came off. And if you look at the onboard, you can see that he tries to turn that car. He tries to turn that steering wheel, but only the left-hand wheel turned. which suggests that the writer, I know Paul DeResta's picked this up as well, that it suggests that the front left or the front right or the rear right
got the
had
puncture,
punctured.
which
Yeah.
is what we discussed
which
last
means
weekend.
it wasn't his fault at all.
He managed, the halo sort of created a splice effect through the barrier, so he was able to get out in time.
Right. He hit, according to what I've seen, and I've seen from multiple angles, both after the incident and before, and he hit perpendicular to the barrier, and everyone's saying that there's a cutout at that barrier. Well, look at the previous things. There was no cutout of the barrier that I saw.
No, it was completely straight through.
What it was the sheer force.
Yeah, and it just...
that he hit the barrier, and at that precise angle, bent the barrier. The barrier was actually to a standard length.
Yeah.
So there was no problem with the barrier, and that's what's worrying. We should be looking at that.
Because it was the angle that went towards it. I mean, we're just watching the Formula 2 practice that's on now. There's now a layer of tyre barrier there to stop that happening again.
Yeah, but this has happened 3 times in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
Right? Once in GP2.
Yeah, we're watching now, yeah.
Twice in Formula 1. And the Sundays was the most spectacular. And all I can say is that the everything did its job, from the headrest, the seat belt, which that's how he burnt his hand.
Yeah, because he's trying to get it off.
You're trying to get the red hot seat belt off, right? So we've got to look into that. And then he lost his boot getting out the car, which is understandable. And when he went over the fence, right, his left foot was placed onto the...
Lost the shoe, yeah.
Because he'd lost his shoe, and that's where he burnt his foot.
Yeah, and it was just a whole
Which is now in a
range of
boot.
things. Yeah, he returned to the circuit
Megan
yesterday. If you remember when Megan had that boot, he returned to the track yesterday, congratulated all the marshals and thanked them all. And
we've had a miracle.
Robertson on. Yeah, completely a miracle.
Because he really is, apart from the burns to his hands and his foot, there's really nothing wrong with him. What we were worried about, and what some of the drivers said in the press conference, was that when you hit at that speed, right, in an air crash, what kills most people isn't the fact that the aircraft breaks up, because when that breaks up, everybody's dead virtually, if they're not thrown clear. But it's the insides of the body hitting the rib cages and other things at the same speed, because the body carries on travelling. The inside of the body carries on travelling at the 180 mile an hour that Grosjean was travelling at.
It was 53 G, and he was inside the fireball for about
53 G. As he hit that thing, the seatbelt retained him, but they were worried about he must have internal bruising, and they're keeping he's had CT scans and everything, and PEP scans and things like that, and they haven't found anything yet.
No,
this guy has been very, very lucky.
I think it's the most incredible accident we've seen that he's actually survived.
He's got 3 children, I believe.
3, yeah.
Yeah, I was saying last week, I thought it was 3, right? And his wife has said that, it's a miracle, and I think he has.
Yeah, he said it was a miracle that he survived with the help of everybody. Yeah,
but it does prove that the things that Sir Jackie and Charlie Whiting and them put in place over the years to strengthen everything. After every accident, something has been strengthened. It will be strengthened after this, because we had a failure, right? They now believe that the fuel cell ruptured.
Yeah, because it's only a bag, really, isn't it? That lays underneath the driver.
Yeah, but it's reinforced as well. It's a bag inside a reinforcement, and they now feel that ruptured. Right now, that wasn't supposed to ever rupture. So you've got to think about strengthening that, right? But what a miracle! You know, Roman wants to race next week. I don't
think he will.
I don't think he will, because I've seen it in MotoGP, but not for burns, but for broken bones.
It'd be a miracle if he does. Yeah.
Thankfully, Roman didn't. And we had a second fire later on in the
with Sergio Perez.
with Perez, and That was what were more normal. That looked like a turbo or an oil
Yeah,
pipe.
it was turbo
Yeah.
and Mercedes power unit that gave up.
So we've done that.
So now we move on to the Monday, which was a whole spew of information. First of all, at about 7 o'clock in the morning our time, it was announced that Pietro Fittipaldi, grandson of Emerson Fittipaldi, will replace Roman this weekend in the Haas. First Brazilian on the track since Felipe Massa. So that's brilliant news for him. He gets his shot in Formula One.
Pedro, when he was 7 years old, walked into his grandfather's study and put on the desk in front of his grandfather his very first trophy from karting.
Yeah.
And he gave it to his grandfather, and he said he wanted to emulate him one day. So this is the first step, you know.
I think he's a very good driver.
Well, yeah, we've seen him. He is a good driver. He's a calculated driver. He doesn't rush, doesn't do stupid things. It's what Haas need.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This weekend.
Unfortunately, they're going with lazy Mazepin.
Yeah, Mazepin's in the car next year.
And Mick.
Mick Schumacher's going to be, yeah.
Mick is another one who has learnt a lot of everybody, like Sebastian and his uncle who were at the track. And it was good news to hear that that Michael was able to follow the last GP2 race, which is amazing. Another miracle.
Yeah. So we move on away from that. And the second thing that was announced quite quickly in Monday about 10 o'clock in the morning. No, 8 o'clock in the morning our time. So it's an hour later than Pedro's announcement. Lewis Hamilton has tested positive for COVID-19. Now, he had 3 negative tests during the Bahrain Grand Prix, but on the Monday woke up with mild symptoms and tested positive twice. He's out this weekend and looks to be out for the remainder of the season. How lucky he got the championship wrapped up, but it begs the question, that is a shocker, really, for Lewis.
Well, it is and it isn't, because Lewis could deal with the break.
Yes.
Right? He's an emotional guy, and he's got a lot of things on his mind, hasn't he? And he's a family-orientated person, right? His family mean everything to him. He's had tragedy in that. He lost one of his dogs, right? I know he had that break at lockdown, but just recently, and maybe it was the fact that it was all the hype around the championship. Although he seemed calm most of the time, there was edgy occasions where he seemed flustered in what he's saying. Now, the thing about Lewis is that he instantly answers you.
Yes, he does, completely, and with an honest answer as well. He doesn't go circulating around.
And
he delivers it
in the last few weeks, he's hesitated a few times. So I just felt there was something wrong. As for contracting the virus, we don't know where he contracted it. It could be anywhere. All 3 drivers on the podium touched each other.
Yep. All the mechanics did as well.
All the mechanics touched each other with fist bumps and things like that.
It's a worry.
I believe that isn't about 17, including Lewis, 17 members of staff
are in quarantine.
Are in quarantine, which is the normal thing to do.
B team come out.
Yeah. And
then we've got Sky too.
Then we've got Georgie Boy.
Yes, George Russell announced 2 days later that he would be. I'm looking up there because the camera's down here. It was announced that George Russell would take over for Lewis Hamilton this weekend, with the presume that he's going to be racing in Abu Dhabi as well. So Williams and Mercedes finally coming to an understanding. Williams has got Jack Aitken.
I would like to thank Dieter Renken of Racing Lines for asking the question that everybody wanted to.
He's Bottas.
That was the.
Sorry, you're gone.
That was the situation that Sebastian found himself in when Charles came into the team, and then all of a sudden, the kid was beating the master.
And that's going to be something. Is that going to happen this weekend?
I'm not saying that Valtteri is a master, but he does push Lewis.
Yeah, and he's had all year in the car. But this is Russell's first race.
But until that moment, he's thought of himself as being the lead driver. And then when Dieter asked him the question, all of a sudden he got flustered and thought, maybe I won't be.
Yes.
Maybe George, because George has been around that team a long time. I know he's not.
He's not
They're officially for 2 years, and he's not been on the simulator. But the car's basically the same
as it was when he tested.
There's a
few
little things on the steering wheel that are different.
DAS, for instance,
and DAS, he hasn't used DAS, but you know, it is perfectly possible that George will, like the Hulk did,
early on in the year.
come into that seat, and wouldn't it be amazing if George would win? Because George hasn't had a single point in Formula One, has he?
No, not 1 point
Not
ever.
1 point, and because he's driving a really horrible technical car that is, 6 seconds sometimes behind the rest?
Yeah, at best 3.
At best 3.
So this is going to be a big culture shock for him, and he's doing it at circuit when he's
I
flat
think
out.
the problems, I think if Valtteri thinks, the problems he will have are the DAS system, warming the tyres up on the safety cars and things like that.
Yeah.
Right? Which, you know, he'll get used to that after about 5-10 seconds.
Yeah, it would be easy for him.
But the big thing is, what he's got to get right in the practice sessions, I'm just looking...
This is the Formula 2 that we're watching above us in the monitor now.
Yeah.
On the outer circuit.
In the Formula 2, Tsunoda has gone top.
Yeah, it's a 103.
On the practice session.
So we're going to be below a minute.
Yeah, we've got to talk about Tsunoda in a minute.
Yeah, go on.
Right? Get back to the what he's got to, what George
has
got to do. Right? It's the difference between the two cars, same engine, but the braking distances are different.
Big difference, yeah.
Yeah. The cornering is vastly different. Right? Now, I feel that his session work on the simulator 2 years ago will solve that.
Yes, yeah.
And all of a sudden, that's what Valtteri was worried about. Hang on, it's not like the Hulk coming in and doing his best. This lad could actually beat me. Wow!
It's going to be a shock. Isn't
He got really upset and really flustered and said, "I don't know what to say about that."
It's going to be fun as well. I've just had a look actually because Jenny Gow's just put a tweet out saying that. Yeah, actually about Jack Aitken, which was actually that's coincidence because that's my next topic. Jack Aitken joins the Williams team.
Well, there's been a lot of money being passed around, like free engines here. And, you get free engines for one of your engines will be free next year and things like that.
We want George. You can have Jack.
We want George back, right? He is our driver, but you've got a contract with him, so the FIA won't let us unless you let us.
It's going to be fun, isn't it? To see.
George said that there was 78, I think it was 78 phone calls.
Yeah, in one day.
Oh, in one day.
Sorry, to the question, Dan Tickton doing his usual thing of blocking the inside run into turn 2.
Did all of you vote for Dan as in the joke about Dan being courteous driver of the year?
I hope so.
Right, because unfortunately, we also put
yes.
Roman in there. And we feel sorry for him now.
I'll tell you what, though, just to back up on that factor as well. We were discussing...
It's about time Roman did retire.
Yeah.
Because he's got no future in Formula One. He's a lovely lad who always answers everything that's put to him, including by his 11-year-old son. But he should have left Formula One 3 or 4 years ago.
The question is, we brought this up last week on practice, and we'll bring it up in the practice session, which starts in about an hour's time. The question is...
You're still a better driver than me.
Yeah. The question is, though, we were discussing who's going to be the next superstar when Hamilton and Vettel leave. And what happens?
Here's the chance. We said, you know...
We were a week ahead of everybody, it seems, to get that
We've still got Vettel involved, but here's the chance, because I think Jack's ready for a punt in that Williams. And the worrying thing for Valtteri is, although he's got a contract for next year...
It can easily be goodbye.
He could easily be third driver.
Yeah. His
contract says as a driver to the Mercedes Limited PLC or whatever it's called.
It could easily be put back to third.
It's like if you sign a Red Bull contract, right? You don't necessarily get a drive. You're just contracted to the firm for that amount of money.
And it could be in any of the 4 cars that they've got. Yeah.
You know, if George is really good, I think we'll see more of George in Mercedes.
Yeah.
Right, and I don't think Lewis is going, like a lot of people are saying.
I was just...
I know it shocked all of them. I mean, Valtteri, the people was asking why Valtteri, what was wrong last week, right? That crash really affected him.
It did, yeah, it affected everybody.
At one point, they were worried about him because he was shaking and his eyes were flickering from side to side.
He didn't move in the hour and 25-minute red flag period.
And he stood still. And it's understandable. It shocked me. I said something I shouldn't say. I said a swear word.
Well, it was a human reaction
but it's
everybody.
A human reaction, you know, which I wanted to talk about as well, because
you didn't do as bad as the Dutch.
Well, the Dutch, they were okay, right? But Crofty and Channel 4, Ben,
Yeah.
right? Either Ben did it, redid it. Maybe Ben swore, redid a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And voiced it in, because I know they all want to emulate Murray.
They were
right?
all quiet.
But
Yeah.
they were all quiet. And this, too calm. The car has just exploded. You don't know whether the driver's dead or alive.
Yeah.
And you're doing this.
Yeah. It's
Crofty was
hard.
doing
Yeah.
this, really concerned.
It's hard to, but well, as we found
I'm
out, yeah.
beginning to sound like a Monty Python sketch.
Yeah.
The only trouble with Wicker
Well,
Island.
we found it last week as well. It's
Alan
quite.
Wicker.
It was the start of the race, and it's unusual for something like that to happen at the start. So the tensions are high. Your adrenaline's running because you're shouting at, "Oh, the car's going around
Yeah,
the
and then
outside."
all of a sudden,
Bang.
he's down low. Maybe that was just his shock.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't do it. I had to
Right.
bring it. I had to sort of
But
take a few minutes.
I've seen Crofty in crashes before, heard him, and he's usually a lot more
energetic.
a good word.
Yes. But yeah, it was a horrible accident, and I think it was over 700 people watched after the race, and over 1,000 watched during the race. So thank you for that. Hopefully we'll deliver something quicker this weekend. Just getting back to this weekend, Jack Aitken said that, because we're running out of time, Jack Aitken said that this track, if you spread all 20 cars out,
With the new configuration with the top.
yes,
Yeah.
if you spread all
The
20 cars,
IndyCar style track.
yeah, if you spread all 20 cars out on the track,
Like a Sonoda, is it?
yes, in
Yeah.
Q1,
Very much the same shape as Sonoda. And that's got a banking and walls and
Yeah.
owned by David Letterman.
if you separate all the 20 cars around the track in Q1, you'd only have a gap of 3 seconds between each car.
55 to 57 second lap.
Yeah, and 87
80-odd
laps.
laps.
Yeah, it's going to be a mad
It's something
race.
different for Formula One, and it's obviously Liberty have
Just testing.
thought about this and asked if they could do it. They knew that the track had been prepared to have Indy races as well, and
It makes sense.
It has minor league racing which do the same.
Yeah,
Bit
outer
like
loops.
the British touring cars and things like that. And yeah,
Let's just give it a go.
It will be interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm not a fan of the ovals. I'm really not. Spectacular crashes, but I'm not in for crashes. I'm in for the racing.
This is more of a roval of anything. People, it's more it's
Roval.
road course, but
Road
in a,
course,
in a
road,
sort of an oval, so it's roval.
Right,
But
and Jack
yeah.
Aitken gets his chance, right? He's been patient. He's been doing a lot of simulator work, right? He won't have the problem that others have where they're coming into a car that is a bit strange to them. He knows that car inside out, right?
Yep.
Right. I don't think he'll do as well as George has been doing, but, right, I think he'll do better than Latifi.
I think that he'll out-qualify
And that's
Latifi.
no offense to Latifi, because everybody that's above him realizes that George and Latifi both they both drive the heart out of that car and more.
It's going to be fun, isn't it, this weekend? That's all we've got time for, because our live is about to start. This bit's pre-recorded, but we're about to get into the commentary box from your perspective. From us, we've got about another 55 minutes. So we'll be back with free practice 1. That's underway at 1:20 UK time. Practice 2 at 5:20, and the Friday practice review at the very later time of 11 o'clock this evening.
And I like this new camera angle because it doesn't show me bald spot.
Well, it'll be back up there in a second. But that's it from us all here. We'll be back later. From us all, bye for now.
Bye.